Shalom, all praise to Yahweh Bashim Yahshad, the blind the apostles of GMS. This is I'm now Allah coming at you another video. In this video, I'm be focusing on the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 14, verse 14. When it speaks about letting go of mortal thoughts. So let's get right to that. 2nd Ezra, chapter 14, verse 14. Let go from thee the mortal thoughts. Cast away the burdens of man. Put off now the weak nature. Now it said mortal thoughts. You know the word mortal means liable to decay. So what is a mortal thought? Well, what's liable to decay? Our bodies, and of course this world. Let me get a quick scripture on that real quick. 2nd Peter chapter 3 verse 10. In fact, you know what? Yeah. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. So the elements gonna melt with fervent heat. They're gonna decay because of that thermonuclear fire. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. They all going to decay. It's all going to be destroyed. Of course, there's a few more scriptures I get into, but that's the point. I can read on, but that's the point. So we know the word mortal means liable to decay. Let me get that word real quick. Mortal. This is the word mortal adjective. It says deadly, destructive to life, causing or threatening death. I'm sorry, corruptible means liable to decay, excuse me. Mortal means death, which something that's liable to decay, which is our bodies, will lead to death. So corruptible and mortal, they mean two different things, but they're to an extent synonymous. Excuse me. So it says deadly, destructive to life, causing or threatening death. So something that's mortal is something that's subject to death. So it basically means death. So the elements shall melt with fervent heat. They go into decay. Or when something is melting, that results in it perishing, which is associated with what? Death. So the elements shall melt with fervent heat, like we read in 2nd Peter 3 and 10. Those things are going to melt, meaning they're going to decay, meaning they're going to perish. Those are all mortal things, things that are subject to death. Okay? Or to some form of destruction. That's why it says deadly, destructive to life at the top of your screen. Okay? So let's go back. So it says, let go from the mortal thoughts. Things that are mortal. The word mortal means death. I meant to say death. Like I said, liable to decay. It means death. But something that liable to decay will result in death. So it said, let go from the mortal thoughts. Cast away the burdens of man. Also, let me go back to that real quick. Let go of the mortal thoughts. So the word mortal means death. What is a mortal thought? If this world eventually is going to be destroyed, then a mortal thought is a thought that's relative to this world. Because just as a mortal is subject to death, is subject to perish, just as a mortal is subject for their existence to cease, this world that we live in, its existence is going to cease. Not the planet Earth, but the world as we know it. You know, the buildings and the philosophies and the governments, everything around us. And this country, America, is going to be completely destroyed. So let go of the mortal thoughts. The mortal thoughts are the things pertaining to this world. That's all going to be destroyed. So all those thoughts that you think that's pertaining to this world, those are mortal thoughts. Wanting to be somebody in this world, thinking about 10, 15, 20 years in the future. Those are mortal thoughts. You got to let go of that. Cast away the burdens of man. Right. You got to cast away the burdens of man. Because in this life, we have burdens. You got burdens. You got financial burdens and different types of burdens that we undergo in this life on a day-to-day basis. But you got to cast away those burdens. Those burdens like a heavy weight that's upon you that has to be casted off from you. You have to cast off those burdens from you. Meaning you have to cast off those things that are heavy laden and that are pinning you down to this world. You got to cast those things away, because the burdens of man, what does man or mankind, what do they tend to be burdened with? They want to achieve a high level of social status, a high level of financial status. They're thinking about their grandkids and their great grandkids and their great great grandkids. You got to cast away those burdens of man. Does that mean you don't think about your children? Of course not. We don't know how long we got left in this society, but by casting away the burdens of man, you are not letting the things that man tends to be burdened with. You're not letting that weight overcome you. You casting it off, and you putting your faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahshua. Put off now the weak nature. You got to put off that weak nature, because being a man, being a human being in these mortal bodies, these fleshly bodies, we get weak. Sometimes your faith is gonna get tested, and you can fail, but you got to put off that weak nature. You got to put that weak nature off. Okay. So let me get the next scripture, because I mentioned mortal thoughts, right? Romans chapter 12 verse 2. And be not conformed to this world. Don't be conformed to this world. Don't be with the form of this world, but be ye transformed. Cross over your form by the renewing of your mind. You got to make your mind new. Renew it. Meaning back or again. By the renewing of your mind. Your mind has to be new again. Or got to be like it's back new. So therefore your mind has to be cleansed of all of the filth that was embedded in us from our youth up, from infancy all the way to adulthood. Obviously we don't do that ourselves. It's all through the power of Yahweh Bashim Yahshua, of course. That ye may that what is good and acceptable and perfect will of the Most High. So that's associated with mortal thoughts. Being conformed to this world. We don't have to be conformed, but we have to be transformed. And look at that word conformed in the Greek.
Strong's G 4964. Suschematizo. Suschematizo.
Suschematizo. And it says to conform oneself, one's mind and character to another's pattern, fashion oneself according to. So when you conform with the world to the world, you have conformed yourself to another's pattern, or you have conformed yourself to this world. You have fashioned or shaping yourself like this world. You think like the world. Your mentality, your behavior, your attitude is all relative or associated with this world. So we gotta not to be that way, but be transformed.
Strong's G 3339. Metamorphao. Metamorphao.
Metamorphao, like metamorphosis. To change into another form, to transform, to transfigure. And it mentions when the transfiguration with Yahushua, but it means to change it to another form. So we gotta be transformed. We gotta change it to another form. That's what we have to do. Okay. All right. And it said renewing your mind. Look at the word renew.
Strong's G 342. Anakinosis. Anakinosis.
Anakinosis, a renewal, renovation, complete change for the better. See that? By the renewing of your mind, complete change for the better. Or like renovation. If a person is renovating the house, they fixing up the walls, the ceiling, they fixing up the floors, everything. They're making it new. It's a renewal. They're making it back new again. A complete change for the better. So it's not just changing, it's changing for the better. Which, of course, that's not something that we do on our own. It's through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahshua. Okay? Okay? get a quick scripture. That's